This morning, Subway facing scrutiny in a new proposed class action lawsuit. The plaintiff, Anna Tollison, accusing the restaurant chain of grossly misleading customers.
All right, well, checking in on the fast food sector, and Subway is stepping up its game in 2021. What are they trying to do this year?
You've probably walked into a Subway thinking you were making a healthier choice. A fresh sandwich, maybe loaded with veggies, a lighter option compared to greasy burgers and fried chicken. But what if I told you that your healthy lunch might not even contain what you think it does? From lawsuits about fake tuna to bread that legally isn't bread, Subway's clean image starts to unravel the moment you dig just a little deeper. Stay with us, because what you're about to learn might change how you see this sandwich chain forever. You might think the most basic thing about a sandwich is the bread, but when it comes to Subway, even that's not what it seems. In 2020, the Supreme Court of Ireland made international headlines by ruling that Subway's bread doesn't legally qualify as bread, at least not under tax law. The reason? It contains so much sugar that it's officially classified as a confectionary, like cake or pastries. That's right, the foundation of your healthy sandwich is closer to dessert than anything you'd expect. This wasn't just a small technicality. The ruling revealed that Subway's bread contains about 10% sugar in the flour mix, far beyond what's considered normal for bread. To put it in perspective, traditional bread recipes use only a tiny fraction of that amount. And it's not just in Ireland. Nutritionists in the US have also raised concerns about the chain's use of chemical additives like azotocarbonamide, a compound more commonly found in yoga mats and shoe soles than food. It was eventually removed after public outcry, but not before years of consumer backlash. Subway defended itself, claiming the bread is still a wholesome choice. But for many health-conscious customers, this was a turning point. It wasn't just about sugar or chemicals, it was about trust. If something as basic as the bread can be misleading, what else is Subway hiding? And as it turns out, the real scandal was just getting started, because the next controversy didn't involve bread at all. It involved something far fishier. In early 2021, Subway found itself at the center of one of the most bizarre fast food controversies in recent memory. The question, whether their tuna was actually tuna at all. It all started when two customers filed a lawsuit in California, claiming that the popular tuna subs contained no actual tuna. What followed was a whirlwind of lab tests, headlines, and public confusion that shook consumer confidence to its core. To find the truth, the New York Times conducted an independent investigation. They ordered multiple tuna sandwiches from various Subway locations, then sent the samples to a lab for DNA testing. The result? No detectable tuna DNA in any of the samples. While the lab did caution that the fish might have been so heavily processed that identifying the species was impossible, the damage was already done. Overnight, Subway became the butt of jokes and the focus of global skepticism. Subway responded with strong denials. They even launched an ad campaign insisting their tuna was 100% real, wild caught, and mixed with nothing but mayo. But by then, the controversy had taken on a life of its own. Customers who had once ordered tuna subs without a second thought began wondering what they were really eating. And what made it worse was the timing. This scandal didn't exist in a vacuum. It piled on top of earlier questions about ingredient quality and transparency. For many, it confirmed a growing suspicion that Subway's squeaky clean image was little more than marketing. But the fishy details don't stop at the tuna, because when you listen to the people who worked behind the counter, a very different picture of Subway starts to emerge. One that's far less appetizing than what's on the menu. To really understand what's going on at Subway, you have to go beyond the ads and behind the counter, and that's exactly where some of the most revealing stories have come from. Over the years, dozens of former employees have taken to Reddit, news outlets, and anonymous forums to share what it's really like working at Subway, and what they describe isn't the fresh, clean kitchen you might imagine. It's something much messier. Many workers report that food safety standards often take a back seat to speed and sales. One former employee claimed they were encouraged to scrape mold off vegetables rather than throw them away. Another said that chicken and tuna mixtures were routinely left out too long or stored improperly, posing serious health risks. Several even admitted that freshly baked bread was just pre-made dough reheated and stored, not exactly the homemade aroma Subway advertises. But it's not just about food. Behind the scenes, employees describe a culture of high stress, low pay, and minimal training. With most locations being franchise-owned, quality and cleanliness can vary wildly depending on who's running the store. And because many locations are staffed by teenagers or underpaid part-timers, there's often little incentive to go above and beyond. These stories paint a picture of a brand that's stretched thin, promising freshness and quality, but relying on a fragile system of minimum wage workers, aging equipment, and corner cutting to keep profits up. And while these first-hand accounts are troubling, they're just one part of the problem, because what's happening to the employees is just a symptom of something even bigger: the way Subway treats its own business partners. And for many franchise owners, that story ends in disaster. While customers saw Subway as a fast-growing food empire, aspiring entrepreneurs saw it as a golden opportunity. After all, who wouldn't want to invest in a recognizable brand with global reach and low startup costs? But behind the promise of owning a successful business lies a brutal reality that's left many franchisees feeling trapped, bankrupt, or worse, betrayed. Subway's business model is built on volume. It has more locations than McDonald's, not because of demand, but because of how aggressively it sells franchises. At one point, Subway was opening a new store every few hours, often placing new locations dangerously close to existing ones. This led to internal competition between franchisees, many of whom watched their sales plummet when a nearly identical store opened just a block away. And here's where it gets worse. Franchisees have limited control. Subway's corporate office has been accused of imposing rigid rules, charging high royalty fees, and offering little support when stores struggle. One former owner described the experience as death by 1,000 cuts. Small fees, constant inspections, mandatory equipment purchases, and marketing contributions that didn't seem to help. In some cases, Subway has even been accused of targeting struggling franchisees for termination, allegedly to resell the store and collect new franchise fees all over again. A 2021 New York Times report revealed several cases where owners felt sabotaged by the very company they paid to partner with. It's a shocking betrayal of the American dream. Small business owners investing everything, only to be chewed up by a system designed to favor the corporation. But the brand's problems don't stop at the financial level, because its image took an even bigger hit thanks to the man once seen as its biggest asset. For years, Jared Fogle was the face of Subway. Literally, he wasn't just a spokesperson, he was a walking billboard for the brand's Eat Fresh image. The man who claimed to lose over 200 pounds eating nothing but Subway sandwiches became a national sensation. Commercials, school visits, even health campaigns. Jared was everywhere, and Subway leaned heavily on his story to promote its food as healthy, trustworthy, and family-friendly. But beneath that carefully curated image was a horrific truth waiting to explode. In 2015, the world was stunned when Jared was arrested and later convicted on child abuse charges and illicit acts involving minors. The revelations weren't just disturbing, they were shattering. Fogle had spent years hiding behind his wholesome public persona while engaging in some of the most vile and predatory behavior imaginable. Subway immediately cut ties, but for many, the damage was already done. The public began asking questions Subway wasn't prepared to answer. How much did they know? Were there warning signs? According to reports, a former franchisee had tried to alert the company years earlier about Jared's inappropriate behavior. Those concerns she claimed were ignored. Subway denied the allegations, but the shadow of doubt remained. This wasn't just a PR crisis, it was a moral one. For a brand built on trust and health, aligning so closely with someone later revealed to be a predator shattered customer confidence. Parents who once brought their kids to Subway now had second thoughts. It became harder to separate the sandwich from the scandal. And while Subway scrambled to rebrand, the fallout was just another layer in a growing pile of controversies. Because even after cutting ties with Jared, the brand kept pushing one message above all: Subway is still the healthier option. But is it really? Subway has long positioned itself as the healthy alternative in the fast food world. Compared to greasy burgers and deep-fried options, a sub packed with veggies sounds like a better choice. And thanks to clever marketing, think Eat Fresh, calorie counts on the menu, and Jared's weight loss story, it's no surprise that many people genuinely believed Subway was the healthiest place to eat on the go. But when you dig deeper into the nutrition facts and advertising tactics, a different picture emerges. One where healthy is more about branding than reality. For starters, many of Subway's menu items are deceptively high in sodium, sugar, and processed ingredients. A seemingly innocent sweet onion chicken teriyaki footlong contains more sugar than a can of Coke, not in the drink, but in the sauce alone. Several sandwiches pack over 1,500 milligrams of sodium, which is close to the entire daily recommended limit. Add chips, a cookie, and a fountain drink, and suddenly your light lunch clocks in at over 1,000 calories. And then there's the fine print. Subway was once sued sued over its foot-long subs not actually measuring a foot long. The chain argued it was just a descriptive name, not a guarantee. The case was eventually dismissed, but it revealed how loosely the brand plays with definitions and expectations. Even the word fresh is up for debate. With prepackaged meats, frozen ingredients, and sauces loaded with preservatives, some critics argue Subway's freshness is more of a marketing illusion than a culinary reality. Nutritionists have also pointed out that many of the chain's sandwiches are just as processed as offerings from other fast food giants. It's just dressed up with lettuce and tomato. So while Subway may look like a healthier option, it often relies on the same tricks: oversized portions, sugary sauces, and misleading names to hook customers. But just when the brand was already under fire, another bombshell shook its foundation: a massive data breach that exposed the trust of customers across the country. As if scandals around food quality and false advertising weren't enough, Subway customers were hit with a more personal violation: their data. In 2016, reports surfaced that Subway's payment systems had been compromised in a cyber attack that exposed millions of customer credit card numbers. While data breaches have become almost routine in the fast food world, this one stood out for how long it took to be addressed, and how little many customers knew about it at the time. According to cybersecurity experts, hackers exploited vulnerabilities in the point-of-sale systems at several franchise locations. These weren't isolated incidents. The breach spanned multiple states and persisted for months before being discovered. Worse, the decentralized nature of Subway's franchise model made it difficult to respond quickly. Each store uses its own tech setup, and not all were compliant with industry-standard security protocols. Subway claimed they worked with third-party investigators to contain the breach, but the damage was already done. Customers across the country saw suspicious charges on their bank statements, and some were forced to cancel cards, freeze accounts, and spend hours cleaning up the mess. For a brand already dealing with growing mistrust, the breach reinforced a troubling message: even your personal information might not be safe at Subway. What made matters worse was the lack of transparency. Some affected customers said they never received official notices from Subway at all, only learning about the hack from the news or their bank. In an era where trust is everything, the company's slow and muted response didn't inspire much confidence. But Subway wasn't just losing customers' trust, it was losing the market. Because while it was once the king of quick service, the company's decline wasn't just about PR nightmares or lawsuits. It was about something even harder to fix: falling sales, vanishing stores, and a brand that no longer knew what it stood for. There was a time when Subway seemed unstoppable. With more locations than McDonald's and an image built around health and affordability, it was the go-to choice for students, office workers, and busy families. But somewhere along the way, the momentum vanished. Stores started closing, sales dropped, loyal customers stopped coming, and the once mighty sandwich empire found itself on the brink of collapse. Between 2015 and 2023, Subway lost over 6,000 locations in the US alone, a staggering number that signals more than just market fluctuation. Franchises were shuttering faster than the company could replace them. Foot traffic fell, and customers increasingly opted for newer, trendier competitors like Jersey Mike's or Jimmy John's. Even fast casual chains like Chipotle and Panera started eating into Subway's customer base, offering fresher ingredients and more transparent sourcing. So what happened? Many experts point to brand fatigue. Subway didn't evolve. Its menu stayed mostly the same while the food landscape shifted dramatically. Health-conscious customers grew suspicious of its processed meats and sugary sauces. Meanwhile, a younger generation demanded customization, local sourcing, and bolder flavors, none of which Subway delivered consistently. And then there's the leadership issue. Subway has been plagued by internal chaos, from infighting among executives to unclear brand direction. At one point, the company tried rolling out menu overhauls and celebrity-endorsed marketing campaigns, but they failed to spark a meaningful turnaround. The brand seemed to be chasing trends rather than leading them. For a company that once prided itself on simplicity, pick your bread, pick your fillings, eat fresh, the reality became painfully complex. Declining quality, scandal after scandal, and poor innovation left Subway not just behind the curve, but almost forgotten. Yet, even as it spiraled, Subway wasn't finished, because in one final twist, the company made a move that surprised even its harshest critics: a last-ditch effort to stay alive, or a signal that the end might be near. With the walls closing in and public trust all but eroded, Subway needed a miracle, so in 2021, they unveiled what they called the biggest overhaul in company history, a massive rebrand dubbed the Eat Fresh Refresh. New ingredients, revamped recipes, upgraded equipment, and a star-studded marketing campaign featuring Tom Brady, Steph Curry, and Serena Williams. It was a bold swing, but was it enough to undo years of bad press, lawsuits, and declining quality? The company claimed to have improved over 20 menu items, introducing things like fresh mozzarella, crisped bacon, and artisan breads. They redesigned stores, updated their app, and retrained staff nationwide. On paper, it looked like Subway was finally addressing its problems, but not everyone was convinced. Critics pointed out that while some ingredients had been upgraded, the core offerings remained the same. Pre-sliced meats, sugary sauces, and the same questionable fresh claims. It was a shiny new package around an aging product. Customers were skeptical too. While the new commercials were flashy, many said the in-store experience hadn't changed much. Some locations still looked dated, sandwich quality was inconsistent, and the upgrades felt like surface-level changes meant to distract rather than fix. Even franchisees expressed frustration, claiming the changes added costs without boosting sales. What Subway needed wasn't just better bread or famous faces, it needed a cultural reset. But after years of damage, can any rebrand truly wipe the slate clean? Or is it just too late to revive a name so closely tied to broken promises? And that brings us to the final question. What does Subway's story really say about the fast food world we live in, and what we're willing to believe when the marketing is just right? Subway didn't just build a sandwich empire, it built a belief system. It told us that fast food could be healthy, affordable, and honest, that a chain store could offer personal choice and fresh ingredients, that a single man could lose hundreds of pounds by simply changing where he ate lunch. For a time, people bought into that dream, millions of them. But as the layers peeled back, the truth revealed something much darker, and far more common than we'd like to admit. Subway's collapse wasn't caused by one scandal or mistake. It was death by 1,000 cuts, a misleading health narrative, abusive franchise practices, a horrifying scandal involving their most recognizable spokesperson, declining food quality, and a failure to adapt to a new generation of eaters. Each piece chipped away at the illusion until what was once a global giant started to feel like a punchline. And yet, Subway's story isn't just about Subway, it's about us. It's about how we crave simple solutions to complex problems, how we latch onto symbols of health without questioning what's behind them, how we fall for corporate storytelling when it's dressed up in fresh veggies and toasted bread. In the end, Subway's rise and fall reveals a simple but powerful truth. Image isn't everything, so the next time you walk past a sandwich shop with glossy ads and catchy slogans, ask yourself what's really going on behind the counter. Because the truth, like that sauce-covered sandwich, might not be as fresh as it looks.